I'm logged in as Jason Blackett. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm the tech. I'm going to walk you through, first of all, because you're all administrator types, what's happened before we got here. Okay? So I'm going to put on my administrator hat for a minute and go to the setup page. And the first thing that I had to do was I had to set up Ldap to pull in the groups that I was interested in. You saw Sudeep to do this earlier, but you'll see here's my Active Directory domain that I'm using, and I've specified a group DN, a group admin DN. This is the user whose Ldap credentials are going to be used to make the group assignment changes. So this user needs the ability to modify Ldap group memberships. So let's go take a look at what I did there. You'll see I'm remote controlling my Active Directory server here. And what I've done up to this point is I came here, I said delegate control for the Ldap groups. I picked the store admin, that's a user I created and made an administrator in Service Desk. And then I gave that user modified the membership of a group rights. I also in ZENworks gave that user bundle assignment rights so that if you want to use the same user for both store group management and bundle assignment management, you can. So that's what I've done. That way I'm not using like a domain administrator, which would be way overkill for the privileges that this store admin user needs. By default, it's going to pull in all of the groups that are underneath the user node. If for some reason your groups are somewhere else and you want to specify an alternate node for groups, then you can actually specify a group node and it'll go pull groups from one place in the tree and users from a different place in the tree. So I've already done all of that. The second thing that I did, right, was I turned on the store itself. So I've got ZENworks store turned on. I've specified the store admin so that the store admin can make bundle assignments if I want to make bundles, something that I list in the store. And then I've imported some hardware, some bundles, and some mobile devices from the system. The last thing that I've done is on the admin side, I've made it so that the store is available to customers. So you'll see the customer store is enabled here. That's the administrative side. Now I'm going to take that off and I'm going to put on my user side hat. So here's my user hat. On the configuration side of things, there's a few things that have been done here. First of all, I defined a workflow. I actually defined several workflows for my store. I've got a two-tier workflow, and then I've got a line manager only workflow. We're going to be using the two-tiered workflow approval. So you'll see what you're going to see happen is this workflow. The user is going to request the application and it's going to go to awaiting the line manager approval. So their boss has to approve it because probably their boss has to make sure they have budget if the IT group is back billing them. Then the item manager, that's me, has to approve this. This is somebody who owns the application. Maybe they're checking to make sure licenses are available or some other technical checks that we're doing. Then we'll put it into the assigned service if everything goes well with that. And the assigned service is where the magic will happen. This is where it will make the user a member of the Ldap group. If that works successfully, then it'll go to closed service assigned because everything was good. If for some reason there was a problem, it'll go into a technician required state so that a tech gets involved and can go address whatever issue may have occurred. If any of the approvals get rejected, then it'll get closed as rejected and said, pay, not going to happen. Then the next thing I've done behind the scenes is I've had to go ahead and bring in what I want to make available. Now, if I am importing and doing this with ZENworks bundles, it's as simple as do the import and we'll create the types. And you'll see by default that we'll use the Windows bundle extension. What that means is when you make an assignment to the Windows bundle or you request a Windows bundle, the service desk will actually make the assignment directly to the user. If you wanted instead to have the bundle get there via group membership, Ldap group membership, because in ZENworks you've already got an Ldap group defined, then you would change that extension for your Windows bundle types so that the default is it's using some Ldap group membership that you specify. In my case, I've gone ahead and I've said I'm, for the most part, going to allow direct bundle group or direct bundle assignments through the store for bundles. But I've then created a new category called store access items, where there are other things I want to list in the store that are tied by group. Inside the store access items, when you define that, you define, is it store capable and which extension is it using? So by default, all store access items are going to use the Ldap group extension. I've then defined some category or some types. And so you'll see there's a store access request type that I've defined. And again, you can override it at that level. And then of course I've defined the items. So let's look at the items that have been created that are store access items. And these are the services that I'm currently providing to my users. I've got something called BYO email access. And if I was to put that on the customer portal and someone requested it, what would actually happen is it would put me in an Ldap group. And as a result of that Ldap group membership, it would put me in a group that is permitted to access ZENworks Mobile Workspace. And so it would provision me an account in ZENworks Mobile Workspace, and then the application would be available to me. I've got developer tools. This one happens to put you in a group that is assigned to a virtual or containerized application in ZAP or in ZAP desktop containers that basically makes it so that they can run IntelliJ ideas and gives me access to a net folder in Filer because of that group membership so that I can store all of my project files there and access them remotely. I've got the one that we're going to focus on, which is Office 365 Developer E3, and then I've got the user experience, which again is another app and file access combo. So again, the Office 365 one's where we'll focus. We've created it. Now that we have a configuration item for it, now we can get ready to make it available in the store. Now, some of this will be review for those of you who've used the store, but for the store, you need to create what's called a store template. And so I've created this two-step approval template. And within this template, you'll see what it does is it defines the SLA. So how long should it take to process this request? It defines which workflow will be used, which we saw earlier, what that workflow looked like. And it says when somebody requests something through the store, which step of the workflow should it start in? And so I've set awaiting line manager approval so that it immediately goes to get the guy's approval. Which team does it go through? I've created a store team that this is going to, and then it gets assigned to me. It then auto assigns this when it hits this particular state in the workflow. And if it's successful, it closes it. If it's not, it moves it to technician required. With the template defined, I've gone ahead and I've clicked here and I've said promote. And when I promoted that, it created this store item right here. And so when you do the promotion, really what you need to specify is what template is going to be used. So I'm going to use the two-step approval template. What is the associated item? So this is the CMDB record that goes with this store item. The categorization and whether it's visible to users. Then you have the magic. So this is the Ldap group extension because of the type of item it is. If you wanted to override that, you could click this box here and override it. But this is obviously the one I want to use. And then you have the Ldap group details where you can add one or more groups. So as a result of the request, you could say I want them to just be a member of this one group, or you can find other Ldap groups and add them to other Ldap groups if you wanted to, and it'll make you a member of all of those groups as a result. You can then specify a description that you want the user to see, as well as a request template so that if some little thing for them to fill out to say this is what I need. So I've created that. You can also give it an icon. This is what the user sees when they go to the store. So those are all the pieces and parts that have been set up behind the scenes. Now let's switch over and look at what it looks like from the user's perspective. So I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log in as our end user, which is R. Wagner. And so when I do that, you'll see that I get the store because I made the store the default page for the customer. And there's the application that I want access to. So I can click here. It's going to give me whatever description I need, and it's going to allow me to fill out the why do I need it. All of my peers have it, and it looks cool. Right? That's my justification. So I can say create the request, and that will now do a request. I just want to show you one other thing while we're right here. You'll notice I can select a corporate laptop, and when I do that, I have some extra values. So if you need to gather extra information during the creation of the bundle, there are actually, for each type of item you want, up to 5 custom fields you can add to this list. And so here, for instance, when it's an item not listed, I can say, well, I want this thing and provide a URL, and that way the service desk can go procure it. But I now have my request open. So there it is, request for Office 365 E3 from the store. And it's currently awaiting my line manager's approval. So at this point, my boss got an email, or he's using the service desk portal. In my case, I'll use the service desk portal because I don't have the email thing set up. So I'll log out. I'll log in as Rick's boss. So now I'm putting on a different hat. This time I'm Matt, his manager. And if I look at my request string, you'll see here that I've got a request to approve Rick's request. So I come in here, I look how all my peers have it, and let's go, well, that's a good business justification. I look at my budget, yep, I can afford that, so I'll approve it. So now you'll see it went into awaiting item manager approval, and Jason is defined as the item manager, which means it's in my queue now. There are a couple ways I could do this. What I'm actually going to do is answer a previous question that was asked in the questions dialog. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my iOS device, and you'll see here I actually have the Service Desk app up. Now if you go to the store today, the Service Desk app is not available on most iOS 10 and 11 devices. Apple switched to requiring 64-bit. This is the version that we've currently submitted to Apple, and we're waiting for their approval on. But I'm going to go ahead and refresh this, and you can see there's the request for Office 365 Developer E3. And so there's my request. I can do whatever I need to verify that Rick should have it. And then I can say, okay, I'm going to change the status now to assign service. I can put my note in there if I want, verified license, and then say save. And you'll notice it disappears from my list. Now it disappeared from my list because it did magic, right? Let's go back and log in as somebody who can see what happened, so that you can see as a result of me approving it on my cell phone what happened. So I can come over here to the operations and look at my service request, and you'll see this is the request that was just processed. And you'll see it's currently sitting in a closed service assigned state. And you'll notice there are 2 notes. Now you noticed when I did the note on my cell phone, I only added 1 note. And so the 1 note that I added, there you go, the verified license. The other note gets added by us that says, hey, I called the Ldap extension and I successfully added Rick into that group. So as a result of that, then, it looks like my connection to my server has ended, so let's do a quick restart of that. So now we're just going to verify that everything I told you was happening would happen. All right, so I'm back on my Active Directory server here. And it takes a minute because it's going through the internet. So here's my Office 365 Developer E3 group. So if I go into the properties of that group, you'll see that Rick is now a member of that group. As a result of that, then we know a few things happened. First of all, in ZENworks, it made some assignments. So I've got a group called, an application group called Office 365 Developer E3 that includes a whole bunch of applications. So these first four are Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel for iOS. These next three are those same applications for Windows, and these last four are the ones for Android. And so as a result of the assignment, you can see this is assigned to the Office 365 Developer E3 group. If I click in here, you can see that ZENworks sees that Rick is a member of that group. So I can refresh here. Oops. Try that again. I didn't want to open the properties. I wanted to refresh ZAP. And if we take a look at my iOS device, we should, super secret password, see that the Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and Word applications were distributed to the phone, and that in ZAP now, those same applications are available to Rick. Now, of course, those apps aren't going to work unless on the back end I had a license. So let's check out Azure and see what happened. So we'll go to Azure Active Directory and we'll take a look at groups. And because this is running AD sync, which means the local AD is syncing up to the cloud, you can see that it synced the Office 365 developer group. Inside that group, there are two members. Rick is now one of them. And because he's part of this group, there is a license assigned for Office 365 Enterprise E3 Developer, and the license changes have been applied to all of them. So at this point now, Rick actually has access to execute Office 365.